Okay, so these fireside chats we're doing here, they're not going to be, scripted per se, but they are going to be today. It was an interesting one, so I actually wrote down some cue cards just instead of rambled on. So we're talking about outcome specific goals. So how to set a goal, then how to actually attain it, or decide if it's worth even going after that goal. So the first one is just decide, what do you want? Okay, so with that's point one. What do you want? State the goal in the positive. You don't say I want to. I want to not be weak anymore. I want to be strong. I want to specifically bench press 300 pounds. So then you got to focus next on yourself. So if you want to change something about yourself, like it's not, if I want to, make X amount of dollars next year, I'm focused on myself making that money so we can have financial stability, not hoping my wife gets a promotion type of mentality. Then you want to finally think about a goal of appropriate size. So you want to make it big enough that it's meaningful, but small enough that you can actually attain it. So it's got to be, if you're bench pressing 185 pounds, the world record raw right now is 738. You're probably not going to hit it in a year. So you got to be realistic. Where at the same time, if you weigh 400 pounds, you're in bed watching TV, eating bonbons all day, and you're going to diet for a year, you should probably shoot for weighing less than 390. So it has to be, realistic. So that's point one. The second point, is it measurable? Okay. How will you know when you achieved your goal? So if you want to weigh a certain amount, make a certain amount of money, that's very attainable. So yeah, I think a good guide are your senses involved. So like even if it's something that's not like a major thing, like do you feel it? Can you see it? Can you hear it? And blah, blah, blah. You want, that kind of thing versus just like something that's so abstract. I want to be a better person. Well, how do you want to be a better person? What's that exactly mean to you? So you got to make sure your goal is actually measurable for it to be a real goal. So next, what's the relevance of the goal? Okay. Identify where the goal is appropriate. Okay. So for instance, if you are trying to be a salesman and you want to, at like each social gathering, like, cocktail parties, whatnot, you want to make a new contact. Okay, that's great. But now all of a sudden you're at a funeral because somebody died. That probably is not the appropriate place to try to make new contacts. You want to ask, every time you're at a social situation, you're going to ask a woman out. You probably don't want to do it, at her father's funeral. I mean, you got to be an element of common sense there. So you got to figure out where your goals are going to be appropriate and where they're not, so you have, again, a realistic outlook. Okay, so the next, number 4, what stops you from purposely pursuing this goal? Okay, is it people? Are you worried about other people? Is it, self-sabotage, fear? I mean, what you got to think, why are you not pursuing this goal? And it's a good step to write it down to figure out exactly why. Okay, so the next, after you figure that out, so what resources do you currently possess? And you'll be surprised if you actually write this down about what you actually have and capable of achieving your goals. So you have faith, your faith in God. That can be a great, crutch and a great, resource for you to be your best. If you've had courage, look at that. I mean, that's huge. So many people don't lack courage. Success in similar ventures or other areas, if I know everything I've ever put my mind to, I've somehow achieved success. Why would what you're doing be any different now? Okay. Then even stuff that's not as noble, like, I mean, if I want to I'm going to build a building, say here over across the street, I can't get a city permit, but I know Joe down at the city has a drinking problem and he's out of cash. I hand him a 50, I get the permit. That's a resource. I mean, I'm not advocating bribery, but I mean, hell, you got to do what you got to do. Okay, attractiveness. You're a woman. Okay, there's a notorious skirt chaser at the permit place. You kind of like shake it a little bit and you get the permit that way. I mean, even money. Okay, so you've never had any success, all right? Okay, but you've inherited $1 million. Well, then go hire a bunch of consultants and coaches to teach you what you got to do. If you've had a hard scrabble background, a tough life, that's going to be a resource for you because you're going to be aware of so many issues and you've overcome so many struggles. I mean, this person did this to me. Well, now, how scary is this goal really? Okay, so then next is, what you have. Now, what do you lack? And what can you do about it? So you got to look at what's out of your control. Okay, so if everybody, gets a position at a certain company, nepotism, they're part of a family, you can't change your bloodline, but if the boss's kid likes baseball, you could find his favorite baseball card and sort of show it to him maybe one day, then what do you have control over? You have control over, no one can ever take away complete control of you no matter what, because as Viktor Frankl, the great psychologist, said, in the concentration camp survivor, you always have control over your attitude. So, there's also, what sort of risk involved are you, that actually is a sort of one to think about, is what risk is involved in the goal. Because even a good noble goal could have an element of risk, because like if you and your wife say drink yourself to sleep every night together, and you say, hey, I'm going to quit drinking, that's a very good decision, but realize that was your bonding time when you were drinking yourself to sleep together. So there could be an element of risk even for a noble goal. Next, number 8, your daily action. What can you do daily to help yourself achieve this? So for lifting, maybe you're not lifting every day, but then you can, instead of doing something that's going to take away from it and not recover, like stay up all night and play Xbox, say, get some good quality sleep. Okay, and then finally, the 9th step, and what you got to do, is all this worth it? Okay, so there is everything. We always talk about the continuum of the risk to benefit ratio. So what's the risk? What's the benefit? If you're, say you need, you're just not happy, you need a little more adrenaline in your life, it probably doesn't make sense, if you got a 2-year-old kid to be running across the freeway and dodging semi trucks. I mean, that wouldn't be, make sense. So everything's have a risk and a benefit, and is the sacrifices you have to make worth it? Okay, so if you are going to quit, eating the hors d'oeuvres at the cocktail party that you go to once a month, and your body fat over the course of a year is going to be 0.5% lower than if you had eaten them, but you offend your boss and you lose the $1 million contract, but you don't even compete in bodybuilding, is that worth it? I mean, you have to make the decision. So these are how to get actually specific outcome goals, and the process is used. So just helping you find this information, and that's that. Have a great day.